Now, there's a lot of things about toxic relationships that make them very painful experiences. One of the most painful things as I look back on my experience with toxic relationships is walking away feeling like you're a bad person, like you are the reason for all the problems, you're the reason for the trouble, you're the reason the relationship failed. And toxic people will oftentimes make sure, actually every time, they'll make sure that you are the one that has to walk away feeling like you messed up. And they get to take the high road and high five everybody and say, yes, we got rid of the bad guy, as they launch their smear campaign and they triangulate you and they do all kinds of horrible stuff. And you're left just destroyed and ruined and heartbroken because you know that you don't identify with this version of who you are that they made up. And you're wondering, how could they do this to you when you did everything you could to be loving, to be kind, to resolve all the conflicts that you possibly could? You gave in, you let them win, you tried everything. You served hand and foot and still ended up being the bad guy. Well, we're going to talk about a way to look at this in this message. My name is Kevin, and this is The Royal We. Now, coming out of that situation, as I said, for me, that was one of the most difficult parts of what I had to walk through, is being okay with being the enemy in their story. And their story does not have to be my story, and it definitely doesn't have to be your story, but it's their story. And we have to understand that narcissists and toxic people in this world have to create their own stories. And we're going to touch on just one of the reasons that I believe they create these stories to begin with. I believe that toxic people, at some point in their life, at the crossroads where they meet you, and oftentimes in all of their relationships, they need to create an enemy in order to feel like they can win and they can escape something that they're at war with inside of themselves. Now, follow me on this. I want you to imagine, and this is where I believe narcissists come from. I don't believe narcissism or toxic people necessarily are a result of physical abuse growing up. I don't feel like that is what results in narcissism. It can, and it might, but I know a lot of people who were beaten and who were abused in their youth that I grew up with, who are the kindest, most sweetest people I've ever come across. I believe that where we see narcissism primarily come from is from neglected children who were left almost abandoned, yelling and screaming and trying to get the attention of parents who just would not be there for them. The parents were either partying or doing drugs or womanizing or doing God knows what. And the child was brokenhearted, yelling and screaming powerlessly, trying to get the attention of the parent. And I believe as this child grows up, the narcissism kicks in, which is, I am bigger now and I no longer need you or a parent or anybody else. But the problem is that this creates a war within themselves to constantly prove that they are worthy of being listened to, of being heard, and they will demand it, and they deserve it, and they are entitled to it. And so what they do is when they find someone like you or like me, bring us into these relationships, they want to create eventually that parent role, that person who is over them, the person who best represents the one who made them feel powerless. So if you think about a child, what makes them feel powerless? The parent in the room, the one who is all powerful, the one who is all knowing, the one they look up to. And so in your relationship with a narcissist, typically you are one that they look up to. Are you not? You're full of love and you're genuine and you're kind and you're good. And you seek justice. You are worthy of being someone that is looked up to. And so they look up to you. All right? Now then, that reminds them of being back in that role. Remember, they felt powerless with somebody who they looked up to, who they could not even get their attention. They could never get anything they needed. And so now you fit that role. So now what they want to do is drag you into their war inside of their hearts, inside of their lives. You now take on that role of being that person in power, and they want to take you down. And so they're going to draw out of you and bring you in and cause you to start to become that parent or whatever authoritative presence that is traumatizing to them. So they get to relive their trauma over again, except this time in their plan, they're going to win because they've convinced themselves and everybody else that they don't care. They don't care about you, and they really don't. They're just using you to drag you into this war because you're bigger than them so that they can be traumatized, feel that trauma of you being mean, of you walking away from them, of you neglecting them, yet they now have the power to raise their voice at you, cuss you out, call you names, fight with you, or ghost you, or cheat on you, or do whatever they need to do, and then turn around and tell you that it's your fault. This is why, by the way, when you are really nice and kind and try to resolve the situation with them, they absolutely hate that. If you don't get mad, then you're spoiling their plans. If you don't stand up for yourself and create boundaries, then you're spoiling their plans. They want you to create boundaries. They want you to get angry. They want you to get mad. They want you to fight. How many of you would say, yes, it's like they like to fight? Yes, they do. Because they want you to traumatize them so they can win. This is narcissistic abuse. Listen, if any of you are experiencing this right now, understand that the aggression towards you is not because of you. It's not your fight. It's not your war. You were dragged into this to represent something that they can grow up and be awakened. It's their awakening moment, if you will. How you and I are having an awakening moment by learning about this. Their awakening moment is feeling powerful enough to bring somebody down who they look up to. So you need to be their enemy in their story. You did nothing wrong. You were dragged into their war. This is why you have no business even being with them. My name is Kevin. I want to be a part of your healing journey. Visit www.jointheroyalwe.com where you can schedule one-on-one time with me. We could do a FaceTime session, a telephone session, or a text session. It's up to you. Every Monday night is Royal We Live Chat, where we come together as a community. We ask questions, answer questions, and you can even call in for free as long as you know that it is a live show. And then Saturday mornings is Royal We Fellowship. This is where we come together and we are reading through the entire Bible, chapter by chapter, and we are looking at it from the perspective of the world being toxic and narcissistic. I'll be back with more videos right here on the Royal We.